The desert sun beat down on Forward Station Echo like a hammer on an anvil. Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his brow, squinting at the shimmering horizon where heat waves danced like ghosts. 3 days ago, the sensors had picked up the ships, sleek, predatory things that hung in the upper atmosphere like silver daggers. Now one had landed. Jake stood in the center of the compound, his rifle slung across his back more from protocol than confidence. What good were bullets against beings who could cross galaxies? She emerged from the craft like a storm given form. Nearly 7 feet tall, her armor seemed to be carved from midnight itself, dark plates that caught the light in strange, shifting patterns. Her skin held a faint luminescence, pale silver threaded with darker veins that pulsed with something that might have been blood or energy. Her eyes were the color of deep water, alien yet somehow achingly familiar in their intensity. Behind her, a dozen warriors fanned out, weapons that hummed with barely contained power held at ready positions. The alien commander walked forward with predatory grace, each step deliberate, measured. When she stopped 10 feet away, the air itself seemed to still. She reached to her side and unclasped a container, crystalline and filled with liquid that caught the sunlight like captured starlight. She placed it on the ground between them, then stepped back. The gesture was clearly ritualistic. Jake had studied enough first contact protocols to recognize ceremony when he saw it. His communication officer, Private Chun, whispered frantically into his earpiece from the safety of the command center. "Captain, don't touch it. We need to analyze." Jake pulled the earpiece out. He was tired of waiting for war, tired of fear that had gripped the outpost for days, tired of watching his people sleep in shifts with weapons in their hands. If this was some kind of challenge or test, he was done with the pageantry. "Suit yourself," he muttered, more to himself than to her. He bent down, picked up the container, and drank. The water was cold, impossibly pure, with a taste like mountain springs and something else, something that made his blood sing in his veins. He drained half the container before lowering it, meeting her eyes. The effect was immediate and electric. The alien commander's eyes widened, luminescent patterns flaring across her skin in waves of light that spoke of shock, perhaps even panic. Her warrior's weapons shifted, rising, but not toward Jake, toward the sky. She spoke then, her voice resonating with harmonics that made his bones ache. The translator chip in his skull struggled to parse the language, finally spitting out a broken phrase. Binding claimed, shield sworn. Jake's hand tightened on the container as he realized he'd done something far more significant than simply accepting a drink. The alien warrior's eyes locked on his, and in their depths he saw his fate being rewritten. Her name was Kaida Felsarin, war leader of the Seventh Fleet, and she was bound. The word pulsed through her neural pathways like a brand, ancient and absolute. Her armor's biointerface flooded her system with calming chemicals, but nothing could suppress the primal response coursing through her body. A human, had just invoked the Sharvek, the water binding, the most sacred covenant of her people. Commander, her second Vex, kept his weapon trained skyward even as he hissed through their private channel. The Conclave will view this as... I know what they'll view it as. Kaida's voice was steady despite the chaos in her blood. Lower weapons, defensive formation around the human. Now! Her warriors obeyed instantly, forming a protective circle that encompassed both her and the man who still held her water vessel, his expression shifting from casual defiance to dawning confusion. Jake felt the weight of a dozen alien gazes as the warriors surrounded him, not threatening, but shielding. What the hell did I just do? Kaida stepped closer, close enough that he could see the patterns of light beneath her skin shifting like bioluminescent currents. When she spoke, her voice held layers of tone that his translator parsed as meaning stacked upon meaning. Among my people, water is life. To offer water before battle is to give your enemy a choice, accept the challenge and fight with honor, or refuse and be shown mercy. Her eyes never left his. But to drink from the offering vessel is to claim guardianship. You have declared yourself my shield, human, and I, in offering, have become bound to your protection. I just drank some water, Jake said, but his voice lacked conviction. Something in his chest felt different, as if the liquid he consumed had rewritten something fundamental. You drank from the Sharvek vessel during a war rite. Kaida's hand moved to her chest, where her armor split to reveal a symbol that glowed with the same light as the water. We are bound now by laws older than your world's recorded history. Your life is mine to protect. My honor is yours to bear. The implications crashed over Jake like a wave. So we can't fight now? Your people won't attack. My fleet cannot harm you without harming me. But the Conclave... She glanced at the sky where her ships hung like judgment. They will not accept this easily. A binding with an alien, a human, it is unprecedented. They will send arbiters. They will demand proof that the binding is genuine. And if we can't prove it, the patterns on her skin darkened. Then they will declare the binding void and continue their invasion. Or they will execute both of us for blasphemy against the ancient codes. Jake's mind raced. His crew was listening to the compound's external monitors. Earth's military command would be receiving every word. This woman, this warrior, had just become Earth's only shield against annihilation, and the price was both their lives. How do we prove it? He asked. Kaida's eyes held something that might have been respect, or might have been a first stirring of something deeper. The bound must demonstrate unity, trust, connection. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was quieter. Among my people, the Sharvek was traditionally exchanged between those who would become mates. Heat that had nothing to do with the desert sun flooded Jake's face. Mates! The binding could be platonic, Kaida said quickly, though her bioluminescence flickered in what he was starting to recognize as uncertainty. Between warriors, between leaders. But the arbiters will test us. They will probe the depth of our connection. Any deception, any hesitation. She didn't need to finish. Jake looked at this alien warrior, at the soldiers who now protected him as one of their own, at the impossible situation his casual act had created. Then he looked up at the ships that could rain fire on everything he loved. Then we'd better start building that connection, he said. Because I don't lose. Something flickered in Kaida's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or the beginning of recognition. She extended her hand, palm up, in a gesture that was almost human. Neither do I, shield brother. When their hands met, the light beneath her skin pulsed outward, and Jake felt the binding settle into his bones like an oath written in starlight. The arbiters arrived at dawn. 3 ships descended in perfect formation, smaller than the warships, but radiating authority that made the hair on Jake's neck stand on end. Kaida had spent the night briefing him on her people's customs, their language, their laws. A crash course in alien culture delivered in her quarters where the walls hummed with technology beyond Earth's understanding. They hadn't slept. There had been too much to learn, too much at stake. But as the night progressed, something had shifted between them. Stories exchanged. Laughter at the absurdity of their situation. The gradual lowering of walls built by duty and difference. Now, stand in the compound center as 3 figures emerged from the lead ship. Jake felt Kaida tense beside him. Her armor had changed overnight, incorporating symbols he didn't recognize. Marks of the bound, she'd explained, visible declarations of their covenant. The lead arbiter was ancient by any species measure, her skin etched with centuries of light patterns that told stories in languages older than human civilization. Her name, translated through his chip, came as Matriarch Ellis. Kaida Thel Seren. The matriarch's voice resonated with power. You stand accused of mockery of the Sharvek, of binding yourself to a creature incapable of understanding our ways, of endangering the conquest for personal desire. Speak. Kaida's response was immediate and unwavering. I stand before you bound by ancient law, honored by the water oath, committed to protection of my shieldmate. There is no mockery in following the codes our ancestors established. A human cannot comprehend the depth of the Sharvek. The second arbiters circle them like a predator. The binding requires spiritual and physical unity. It requires... I understand it well enough, Jake interrupted, earning shocked looks from the arbiters and a warning pulse from Kaida's bioluminescence. Your commander offered water before battle. I accepted guardianship by drinking. That makes me responsible for her survival, and her for mine. Pretty straightforward. The matriarch's eyes narrowed. The Sharvek is not a contract. Human. It is a union of souls, a merging of purpose and being. It requires trust absolute. She turned to Kaida. You would trust this creature with your life? With access to your mind, your body, your vulnerabilities? I would. Kaida's hand found Jake's, their fingers intertwining. The light beneath her skin pulsed in time with his heartbeat, a connection he'd noticed growing throughout the night. He has proven his integrity, his honor, his strength. Then prove the binding is true. The third arbiter stepped forward, holding a device that glowed with inner fire. Submit to the resonance test. If your bond is genuine, your essences will harmonize. If not, the arbiter's smile was cold. The discord will tear you both apart from within. Jake felt Kaida's hand tighten on his. They discussed this possibility. The resonance test forced bonded pairs to open themselves completely, mind and body, creating a feedback loop that would either strengthen genuine bonds or destroy false ones. We accept, Jake said before Kaida could speak. The device activated, and the world became fire. It started as a pulse, energy flowing from the device into their joined hands, racing up their arms and spreading through their nervous systems. Jake gasped as Kaida's emotions crashed into him. Fierce pride, deep fear, a protectiveness that bordered on violent, and underneath it all, a growing warmth that made his breath catch. He felt her ancient warrior's discipline, memories of battles fought across countless worlds, the weight of command, and the loneliness of being set apart by duty and strength. He felt her surprise at finding in him not weakness, but a different kind of courage, the stubborn resilience of humanity, the refusal to surrender even in the face of impossible odds. And she felt him in return. His memories flooded through their connection. Childhood dreams of the stars, the pain of losses that forged his resolve, his love for the people under his command, his bone-deep certainty that every life mattered, that every stand against darkness was worth making. The energy intensified, and Jake felt the separation between them beginning to blur. Her strength flowed into him. His determination anchored her. Their heartbeats synchronized, their breathing matched, and the light beneath her skin spread to his own. Faint patterns glowed along his arms where they touched. The arbiters watched in stunned silence as the resonance built to a crescendo and held. When the device finally powered down, Jake and Kaida remained standing, their hands still joined, their eyes locked. The glow of the binding pulsed visibly between them now. Undeniable proof written in light and life. Impossible, whispered the second arbiter. But the matriarch was smiling, expression both approving and sad. Not impossible. Rare. Sacred. She bowed her head in respect. The binding is genuine. The Sharvek stands. The formal recognition of the binding came with complications neither Jake nor Kaida had fully anticipated. Within hours, Earth's command was demanding explanations, their transmissions filled with equal parts panic and hope. Jake's superiors wanted strategic briefings, wanted to know if this binding could be replicated, weaponized, used to establish alliances with other alien forces. Kaida's fleet was in similar turmoil. Her warriors accepted the binding. Honor demanded it. But the Conclave sent streams of encrypted communications demanding her return, questioning her judgment, debating whether a war leader bound to a human could still serve the fleet's interests. They dealt with it all from Kaida's quarters, the only space large enough for both of them and private enough for honest conversation. The resonance had changed things between them. Jake could feel echoes of her presence in the back of his mind now, emotional currents that spoke of her state without words. And she could feel him, his concerns, his determination, his growing awareness of her not just as an ally but as a woman. Because that was the truth neither of them could ignore anymore. Kaida was not just an alien warrior. She was magnificent, strong and fierce and unexpectedly gentle in small moments. When she removed her armor, her form was both familiar and exotic, curves and strength combined in ways that made his mouth go dry. And he felt her awareness of him intensifying too, her alien biology responding to their bond in ways that went beyond mere strategic alliance. "Your people are calling you back," Jake said, reviewing the latest transmission. They were seated close on a bench designed for her taller frame, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "They will have to wait." Kaida's voice held steel. "The binding is not complete." Jake turned to face her fully. The arbiters certified it. You heard them. The resonance proved our bond genuine. Kaida interrupted, her eyes intense. But the Sharvek has stages. We have passed the first, the recognition connection. But to be fully bound, to have protection be absolute and unbreakable. She paused, and her bioluminescence flickered with what he now recognized as nervous energy. We must complete the union. Heat pooled in Jake's stomach. You mean? Physical unity. Her hand rose to his face, fingers tracing his jaw with surprising tenderness. Among my people, the bound must join completely. Not merely hearts and minds, but bodies. The sharing of essence, of pleasure, of vulnerable trust. Her eyes searched his. Without it, the conclave can still challenge the binding, can still claim it incomplete and void. Jake's breath caught, and if we complete it, then we are mated in the eyes of all civilizations that honor the ancient codes, protected by laws that predate most star systems. Your world becomes mine to defend. My people become yours to influence. Her thumb brushed his lower lip. But it must be chosen freely, Jake. The binding cannot be completed under coercion. It must be desire, genuine and willing. He could feel her want through their connection, carefully controlled but unmistakable. Could feel how she trembled despite her warrior's discipline, how centuries of tradition wore with the newness of wanting an alien, a human, with such intensity, and he could hide nothing from her either. She felt his attraction, his fascination with her strength and her vulnerability, the way his body had responded to her presence since the moment she'd emerged from her ship like a vision of otherworldly power. Kada, he said softly, his hand rising to cover hers against his face. If we do this, we will be bound for life, she finished. Among my people, the Sharvek is eternal. There is no dissolution, no separation. Your fate becomes mine, my fate becomes yours, until death separates us. Her eyes held both warning and hope. I would understand if... Jake kissed her. It was a decision made not from strategy but from truth, the truth that had been building since the moment their hands first met, since the resonance had showed in the depth of her soul and let her see his in return. She responded with a sound that was both surprised and hungry, her lips parting under his. The kiss deepened as her arms came around him, pulling him closer with strength that could have broken him but held him with reverent care. His hands found the fastenings of her armor, and she helped him, her fingers trembling slightly as they worked. When the armor fell away, revealing the luminescent beauty of her beneath, Jake's breath stopped. The patterns of light covered her entire body, pulsing with the rhythm of her hearts. She had two, he'd learned, both racing now as his hands explored her alien curves. "You're beautiful," he whispered against her skin. Her laugh was shaky. "I am a warrior, built for battle." "You're beautiful," he repeated more firmly, his lips tracing the lines of light along her collarbone. "Every part of you." She shuddered under his touch, her hands working to remove his clothing with fingers that suddenly felt clumsy despite their deadly precision. When his skin met hers fully, they both gasped, the sensation amplified by their bond, pleasure doubling and reflecting between them. Kaida pulled him down onto the sleeping platform, her eyes dark with desire. "The completion requires," she started, but Jake silenced her with another kiss. "I know what it requires," he murmured against her lips. "Trust, unity, us." And as they came together, the binding completed itself in light and heat and the absolute certainty that they were now and forever one. The morning sun found them tangled together, the light catching the patterns that now covered both their bodies, hers eternal, his temporary but undeniable proof of their union. Kaida traced the glowing lines on Jake's chest, marveling at how her people's ancient biology had marked him as hers. "The fleet is withdrawing," she said softly, not wanting to break the peace, but knowing duty demanded acknowledgement. "The conclave has issued orders. We are to establish a diplomatic outpost here. The war is postponed pending negotiations." Jake's hand caught hers, pressing it flat against his heart. "Because of us? Because of the Sharvek?" Kaida's expression was complex. "The bound cannot be separated without killing both. To continue the invasion means risking my life, and by extension, the life of a war leader. The political cost is too high. She smiled slightly. You have saved your world by drinking water, shieldmate. We saved it, Jake corrected, pulling her closer. Through their bond, he felt her satisfaction, her contentment, and underneath it, a fierce possessiveness that mirrored his own. Together, his communicator buzzed, the 20th attempt from Earth Command in the past hour. Kaida's own devices hummed with similar insistence from the fleet. The galaxy had changed overnight, and both their peoples wanted answers, assurances, plans. But for now, they remained in their sanctuary, wrapped in each other in the light of the binding that had rewritten the fate of worlds. They will separate us, Kaida said quietly. Demand your return to your people. Demand mine to the fleet. We will be pulled by duty in different directions. Jake's jaw tightened. The binding protects us from death, not from obligation. But her eyes held determination. However, as your bound mate, I cannot leave you unprotected. Fleet law requires I remain within defensive range. And as my shield brother, you cannot abandon me to face potential threats alone. Earth's protocols should require the same. A smile tugged at Jake's lips. So we're stuck together. Bound together, Kaida corrected, her own smile emerging, obligated to remain in proximity for mutual protection. How inconvenient. Tragic, really. A terrible burden. They kissed again, the levity giving way to heat, their bodies remembering the night's discoveries. But eventually, duty could be postponed no longer. They rose, dressed, and prepared to face the consequences of their binding. The compound was in controlled chaos when they emerged. Jake's team had been working through the night, establishing communication protocols with Kaida's warriors, creating the framework for what would become humanity's first true alien alliance. Private Chin approached, her expression carefully neutral. Captain, Commander, Earth Command is requesting an immediate briefing. They want a full report on the binding process and its strategic implications. Tell them we'll brief in 1 hour, Jake said. And Chen, it's not just a strategic advantage. Remember that when you're writing your reports. The young woman's expression softened. Yes, sir. I can see that. Kaida's second, Vex, approached with similar reports from the fleet. The warrior's expression held grudging respect as he addressed Jake directly. Shield brother, the Conclave wishes to speak with you. They have questions about human capability, culture, and potential for integration into galactic civilization. Let them wait, Kaida said firmly. My mate and I will address both our peoples together. As one, the use of the word mate sent ripples through both human and alien observers. It was a declaration, a public acknowledgement of what the binding had created. Jake felt pride surge through their connection, and he squeezed her hand. Over the following weeks, they became the bridge between two civilizations. Jake learned the complexities of galactic politics while teaching Kaida the nuances of human emotion and art. She introduced him to technologies that would revolutionize Earth's development, while he showed her the beauty in humanity's resilience and hope. There were challenges, cultural misunderstandings, political maneuvering from those who wanted to exploit or break the binding, moments of doubt and fear. But through it all, they remained united, their bond growing stronger rather than fraying under pressure. 6 months after that fateful day in the desert, Jake and Kaida stood on the observation deck of the first joint human-alien space station, watching Earth turn below them. Her people's ships hung in orbit beside humanity's newest vessels, guardians rather than conquerors. Do you regret it? Kaida asked quietly. The binding cost you your freedom, your ability to choose a human mate, a normal life. Jake pulled her close, marveling as he always did at how perfectly they fit together despite the differences in their biology. I chose, he said firmly. When I drank that water, maybe I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but some part of me knew it mattered. Some part of me recognized you. She turned in his arms, her eyes shining with emotion that transcended species. My people have a saying, water flows to its destiny. I came to your world for conquest. Instead, I found my other half. Suit yourself, Jake said with a grin, echoing the words that had started everything. Kaida laughed. The the sound rich and free, and kiss him as Earth and her fleet ships hung in perfect balance around them. A new alliance, a new future, born from a moment of casual defiance and an ancient ritual neither of them had fully understood. But they understood now. The Sharvek was not a trap or an obligation. It was a gift, the finding of the one soul in all the universe that completed your own. Human or alien, warrior or leader, it didn't matter. What mattered was the choice and the love that followed. In the observation deck's reflection, their intertwined forms glowed with the light of the binding. Two souls merged into one, watching their peoples learn to do the same. The war had been averted not with weapons, but with water, not with armies, but with an unexpected bond. And in the end, Jake thought as Kaida's laughter echoed in his mind through their connection, that was the most human and the most alien truth of all. Love, in any language, in any form, was the greatest force in the universe. Together they stood, bound and unbreakable, as the dawn of a new era rose over two worlds learning to become one.